Now, for the woman of the hour, Debbie Lynn Grace. It's the obstacles and challenges and unexpected opportunities that truly lead you to discover your higher calling. For Debbie Lynn Grace, the road to her purpose felt like an unconventional route and path she had never envisioned for herself. Now, each step on her path makes perfect sense. Today, Debbie is the author of the book, Outrageous Business Growth, a contributing author to 5 other business and personal development books, an international speaker, energy worker, and intuitive. Over the last 30 years, Debbie's programs have impacted hundreds of thousands of people. Today, through her online programs and live events, she is blessed to show highly sensitive people and empaths worldwide how to dissolve the energy blocks that prevent you from leading a life of purpose, authenticity, love, and prosperity. Debbie Lynn, are you ready to rock this? She's ready to rock. You are now live on Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self. Thank you so much for showing up today and giving our audience some amazing wisdom. And I know I'm going to have a lot of fun. I love this topic and talking about this stuff. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Woohoo! Awesome. So we're going to dive right into the theme of the day, which is mother's love. So Debbie Lynn, how has mother's love, this concept of receiving that nurturing, nourishing from a mother, or being the mother yourself and giving it, or in your career with your clients, really providing that nurturing, that space, how has this concept of mother's love showed up for you in your life?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I think, Chris, you're the first person that's ever asked me that. In fact, I know you are. Well, when I think about my mother, and unfortunately, my mom died a very long time ago. She died when I was fairly young, and it was a great loss. But some of the things that I remember the most about my mother is her passion. And so when I look back and remember things about my mom, I think mostly I kind of look to see, what do I have from her that I'm proud of, that I loved in her and I love in myself. And I feel like that was a gift to me. And I think one of them was definitely passion. I'm a fairly passionate person. I'm passionate about what I do. And I think that in itself. And I also remember my mom she had kind of a gentle spirit, I would say. Yeah. A very gentle spirit. She was an artist. And I, thinking to myself, after she passed away, as I got older, my older sister was a gifted artist. My mom was extremely gifted artist, where she could paint and draw beautifully. And I thought, well, maybe I got this talent too. Yeah, that didn't happen. I tried and I can't get past a stick figure. But I do have a love of the arts and a love of beauty and a love of feeling sort of that creative energy in everything I do. And I think just being an entrepreneur, we all have a creative spirit inside of us. And I'd love to say that many ways that really came through the eyes of my mother.
Wow. That's beautiful. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that, because it's our parents that inspire us to be either like them, or if we don't want to be like them, some people have parents that they don't want to be like, and they're the complete opposite. But I love that you found this source of power and inspiration, passion and lightness, and the inspiration of creativity and the entrepreneurial mindset through your mom, or recognizing those traits in your mom. That's amazing. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she used to sell arts and crafts. So I spent my childhood and my teens going to arts and craft shows and sometimes helping her sell things. So right there was my little entrepreneurial spirit. Wow. I think I was more excited about the selling aspect, you know. But I go to an arts and craft fair and I feel like I'm 10 again. It's very exciting to me.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. So thank you for that response. And we're going to dive into who you are a little bit more. I read your intro, but I'd love for you to share with our audience who you are, what you're working on today, and how you serve the world, because you're doing amazing things, Debbie Lynn.
Yeah, well, I had a pretty, I would say unique journey, but in talking to people, I'm sure everybody you have on the show has a unique journey. And it's so rare that somebody goes from point A to point B and A knows they're going to get to point B
Yeah.
and plans it out and it happens exactly the way they planned it out. So I haven't met anybody like that yet, but I have to be honest. I worked really hard for that model to work in my life.
Totally.
I was really clear. I got my start in marketing, and I started my corporate career was in marketing, and my when I started my business, it was a marketing consulting business, and I was definitely had that thought that I'm the normal person that's going to take the normal route in life and just build this very successful marketing consulting business. And that was it. I loved marketing. I'm passionate about it. I was excited. I love helping people. And that's not exactly the way it worked. The first part of it is true. I did start a marketing consulting business. It was relatively successful fairly early on. My background is direct marketing. So I know a lot about, increasing your response rate and decreasing your marketing costs. So that's my orientation. But not soon after I started my consulting business, I went through a divorce, and I didn't see it coming. I really, and it really took me to my knees. And I think that's the first thing that if you can learn as an entrepreneur is so critical, that there's going to be times in your life that you get brought down to your knees. It could be the economy. It could be your health. It could be a life change. Like for me, I experienced a life change. And it's going to happen throughout your life. And in that time, I turned to my support system, my family and my friends, and I turned to my older sister, Lisa. Now, this is the mid 90s. And my sister, Lisa, was a very gifted energy worker and an intuitive. And I was a very left brain, analytical, strategic thinker. And at that time, 25 years ago, I would say we were very at far ends of the spectrum. Until she took me on a path that I didn't see coming, which completely changed everything for me. And so in my despair, all I could think of was, will I ever wake up happy again?
Wow.
And she said to me someday, I said, what do I do? And she said, it's time for you to learn what I do. Now, remember, I'm a marketing consultant and she's an energy worker. And I had no idea what an energy worker was. I really didn't. I didn't know what she did. And I said, why would I do that? But she said the magic words that changed my life. And she said, because it will help you heal. And in that moment, I don't know if you've ever been a moment, Chris, where you've been very vulnerable, that you'll take anything in that moment just to believe that it's going to help you because you're in that moment of vulnerability. And so I found myself by day continuing to build my marketing consulting business, and by night learning this type of energy work called flow, alignment, and connection. And in just very simple terms, it's the ability to track energy flow in any person or situation and identify where there's an energy block and be able to facilitate the flow so the energy block is released. So in a business, that would look, an energy block would be a lack of sales. An energy block would be going to the wrong people, an energy, so you don't understand, the wrong marketing. Those would be energy blocks. Right. And so something really unique happened. I was kind of, not too long into learning this energy work. And I was only doing it for my own healing. I wasn't doing it for anybody else or to help anybody else with that kind of work. And one day I get a new marketing consulting client, and I'm meeting with them in person, and they're sitting, or this man is sitting across from me at the table. And I'm asking him, to tell me his marketing challenges. And he starts talking. And all of a sudden I hear this voice in my head that starts giving me information about this man. It was really clear. And it was about, tell this man, when this man was 5, something happened to him, and now he has this kind of fear, and this is what's blocking him. And it was so specific and had nothing to do with marketing. Wow. And everything to do with what was going on inside of him. And at first, I had never had this happen before, to be honest, before that. And I thought something really crazy was happening, because it was. And I didn't know what to do because this voice was so loud in my head. And I finally kind of blurted out. I couldn't take it anymore. I just kind of blurted out, hey, I'm just wondering, and I asked him, and I kind of blurted out exactly what was going on in my head, what I was hearing in my head. And he stopped talking. and his mouth dropped, and then the tears started. And then he had a breakdown, and then he had a breakthrough.
Wow.
And this started to happen over and over and over again. Every time I met with somebody, I literally could start to feel what was going on with them and listening to them talk. And I could experience things in a completely different route than just mentally and just literally focusing on their business. I could start to track the energy of what they were saying, what was going on with them. And that sort of led me on a very different path. So I sort of walked two fine lines for the next 12 years. I got online. My business started to really grow. I got a worldwide following. I was published all over the world. I was speaking all over the world. And yet, I have to be honest, Chris, I felt really inauthentic because I never told anybody that I was an energy worker. I didn't tell anybody I was an intuitive. I didn't tell anybody how I knew what I knew. And I hid. And the reason I hid was because I'm a highly sensitive person and an empath. And growing up, I felt very different. And I was teased for being different. I was teased for being too sensitive. And so there was no way I wanted the world now to view me as really different.
Right.
And talking about having this gift made me even more different. But the universe came calling and would not let me alone.
Banging on the door.
Banging on the door. And one day, I woke up and this voice came loudly in my head. It wasn't too long after I published my book, Outrageous Business Growth. It was in 2004. And I woke up and I had this voice in my head very loudly say, go to your computer and turn it on. And there it was. I go to my computer, I run to my computer, turn it on, and my fingers start to fly across the keyboard. And I basically typed a document that told me what my future was going to look like. And it said, you're going to help people around the world, and you're going to show them how to align with their soul and how to align with the universe. And then you're going to get a group of people and you're going to show them how to align in their business. And I freaked. I freaked out and I put my finger over the delete button because nobody had to know about this document, right? Nobody knew, but I didn't delete it, but I didn't follow it. And I'll tell you, that cost me. It cost me a lot of trying to cover up sort of and not feeling authentic until it came louder. And a few years later, the voice came in again. Same thing. Go to your computer, turn it on. I turned on the computer, and this time I was typing an email to my subscriber list. And it said, I started to type, I'm going to share my personal story in public that I've never shared before. And I'm going to share with you how to align your soul and how to align the universe and how to align your business. And I had my finger over the send button, and every ounce inside of it, every kind of cell inside of me said, when I hit this button, everything's going to change. And I hit send. And then I thought I honestly thought my world was going to fall apart. I thought that I had just basically torpedoed my business. Nobody was going to like me. Everybody's going to think I'm so crazy and so different. And I got the guts to give that webinar. And I will tell you, there are people that are still following me today that you might even heard of. There's some people that become pretty well known in the marketplace that attended my first group, the first group that I predicted in that document from 2004. And I worked with over a 6-month period and created the start of my work. Wow. And it was after that I made a commitment. It's a commitment that I follow in my own life now. And that commitment is to follow wherever I'm guided, I will go. And if it means I give up everything I'm doing and I do something else, if that's what I'm guided, I will do. And that led me to really transforming my business. I don't teach marketing. I don't even teach business anymore. Wow. I literally talk about connecting with your soul and living an extraordinary life. And it led me to start working with highly sensitive people and realize that I had a real niche in the world, that I could champion them as a leader instead of hide from them because I hid my whole life. And that's what's led me to my work today. It's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Wow. Such a beautiful, beautiful journey, and there's so much gold in there. You shared about how you started off in business, you had some success, massive, good success, marketing and kicking butt, direct response, and then you had that first calling, and you wrote it up, and you said, "No, I'm not gonna do anything with this." You resisted it. You didn't delete it, but you didn't send it. You didn't put it out. And then a couple years later, you get the voice again, and you just start typing. Now it's like, this is an action that's going to happen instantaneously to, get to all the people who know about you, and it's instantly going to shift their perception of you, their reality of you, who they know you as, or just wonder, like, what is Debbie on?
Right, exactly. And start unsubscribing and going, oh my God, she's lost her marbles. Yes.
So you did that, you did the webinar, and it turned out to be such a huge hit and such a, flag planting in the ground that the people who saw it, they're like, wow, this is amazing. This is exactly what we've needed, what we wanted. And you've been a voice for the people who have been voiceless, so to speak, who have been too sensitive to speak up, who didn't know how to deal with their sensitivity, deal with their gifts. And now you're a light to help them through their challenging times, through feeling like they don't belong, through feeling like they're disconnected, not enough, not worthy, or that something's wrong. And you get to remind them that, hey, it's all right. It's all perfect. You have some incredible gifts. Now I'm going to teach you how to utilize them.
That was so well summarized. I can't tell you.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's beautiful. And I'm curious, over the period of time where you declared that you're going to be doing this energy work and teaching people how to tap into their gifts and their intuition, and that if they're sensitive, how to deal with that. What were some of the biggest challenges to growing that phase, that arm or that leg of the journey in that business?
I'm going to be honest. That was the easiest work I've ever done in my life.
Wow. That's awesome.
I mean, I'm not I started to really move pretty exclusively in this direction in 2015. So I'm about 3 years into it.
Okay.
And it launched, and the universe responded and filled a vacuum. And I literally had, I don't know, within a couple of years, 12, 15,000 people go through my webinars.
Wow.
In a short amount of time. Yeah. And hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students have gone through that program worldwide. And I have a lot of testimonials, people that changed their life from this very simple foundational course that shows you how to literally thrive on a daily basis as a highly sensitive person. And when I look back, and I've been in business, I'm celebrating my 24th year in business.
Congrats.
And the last 3 years have been the easiest.
That's awesome.
So I'd love to say that. Now, I will also say that I would like to say that when, because I have strategic background, strategic marketing, strategic thinking background, everything I do is not driven by strategic thought. It's driven by my inner guidance. Okay. Then I use my strategic thought to, use that marketing skill to get the message out there. But when I try and plan in advance, the universe has a really good laugh around that one.
What's the difference? What's the difference between planning in advance and like what that feels like, what that experience is like, what the process is like, and receiving the intuitional guidance?
It's really a big difference. So when you are in that place of strategic thinking, your focus is how. How am I going to reach this goal? How am I going to do this? When you start out from that thinking of how, what ends up happening is you start to think that you're the only one that generates that power. Wow. You're the only one that generates that effort. And you don't take into consideration all the possibility you have and the tools and resources you have available to you that will not only support you in this process without you having to do a whole lot, but will start to send you resources before you even take action, or you take action in partnership with your intuition and guidance. When you start with your guidance, you're starting from the why. Why am I here? And who am I being? Who am I being? Who am I being when I'm here talking to you?
Mm.
Who am I being? Am I here as a marketer? No, I'm not.
Mm.
Am I here as an expert? Actually, no, I'm not here as an expert.
Mm.
I'm here as a transformational leader. I'm
Wow.
here to like hold the highest vibration of possibility. And when I speak, that allows everybody else to also be in that greatest state of possibility for
Mm.
themselves. So I'm really clear on who I'm being. And I think that's really critical. Whatever you approach, it's who you're being when you approach it. I mean,
Mm.
I can feel your energy. I can feel your passion and your excitement and your desire to be that greatest possible self for yourself. So that's who you're being as you
Mm.
talk to people. And I also feel your curiosity. So that's a great model. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And it makes business so much easier.
Mm. Beautiful. So the why, we have to start with the why. Why am I here? And then who am I being? So it's like, how am I showing up? How do I feel right now? What version of myself? What's the self-image that I have? Am I worried about what I look like? Am I worried about my makeup, my clothes? Am I worried about what I'm going to say? Or am I standing in, I know I'm going to deliver the gold to this audience, these people, this client, this prospect, whatever it might be. It's like who your being is. Can you define that a little bit more? I want to
Yeah,
dive into that.
it's more about your identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much about, how do I look or, I'll give you a really simple example. Do you have a brother or sister?
I have a sister. Yes.
Okay. So you're a brother
Mm-hmm.
to your
Yes.
sister, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how do you show up as a brother when you're with her? So who you're being as a brother might be different in that identity to who you're being as a son,
Mm.
or who you're being as a friend to
Right.
somebody else. You access different parts of yourself when you're in different scenarios in your identity. And that's why it got very hard for me when I was out there even talking about marketing. It wasn't that I was being inauthentic as a marketer, but I realized I was being way more than a marketer. And I started to purposefully hide and make a part of me smaller in order to be able to be in the world. And I knew every ounce of me was like saying, that's not who you are. And that's not what you represent. You're telling people and showing them to be bigger in the world. And you're making yourself smaller in order to do that. Does this make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So it's about who you're being, and if you're being your greatest possible self, what does that look like? I mean, are you being kind? Are you being generous? Does your greatest possible self represent for you? I'm sure it's curiosity, it's intelligence, it's depth, it's wisdom. Am I right so far?
Yes, yes, yes.
Integrity, right?
Yes.
So when you bring that to the table and you're being that in front of an audience, it gives them the space to be their authentic selves.
So now we got a clear idea of being, and it's like that identity and these different parts of ourselves that we can access to create results in reality. It's like if I want, what are the results that I want when I'm with my sister? I want harmony. I want cooperation. I want to have fun with her. I want to whatever. I want to have a good time. I want to serve my parents with my sister so that we can, appreciate them and show them how much they mean to us. So who I show up as is a good brother, an amazing brother, cooperative, listening, curious, and all the things that you talk about as my greatest possible self. So what does it mean to awaken that greatest possible self, that highest self?
Well, I think that a lot of people don't actually create a life that supports their greatest possible being. They start to create a life, especially, in our world and our society, we are taught the model of an ego-based, success-driven model. It's all about, and when I mean by ego-based, I don't mean by, like ego, like I'm awesome kind of. I mean ego-based, meaning it's you set a goal and you make a plan to achieve that goal. And the harder you work, the more sort of accolades you get, the more you're celebrated. And I don't subscribe. I used to teach that model. I do not subscribe to that model at all. at all. And if I've crossed lines, sometimes I would default to that model. And I'm more of a spiritual based model.
Mm-hmm.
And a spiritual based model is not about setting a goal. It's about following your guidance and having no idea where it's going to lead you, but knowing that if the universe is taking you there, it's going to be way bigger than you could possibly imagine.
Mm.
So I don't think in terms of goals, to be honest, Chris. I think in terms of milestones.
Okay.
So a milestone is, here's what a milestone would look like. Did you used to fight with your sister growing up?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I can relate to that. Fought with my sisters all the time. And okay, so have there been times now when you're with your sister that's really fun and it's you don't fight with her?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that would be a milestone. You can look back and see your own growth and your own experience. And what I love, a milestone is kind of like standing, waiting to go see a really popular movie. And you get to the movie theater and there's a massive line. It's 100 people in line and you're at the end, you're like, oh my God, I have to stand this line. And what do? Every time you move forward, you look behind you, right? You see how many people are behind you because it makes you feel better.
Yes.
Well, when you get to the front of the line and now there's 100 people behind you, it's kind of like you feel so much better. And that's the way about it, like a milestone in life, when you actually celebrate a moment in time and can look back and see how much you grew because of the experience. Wow. And so if you're always focused ahead of straight, achievement, you miss the gold of who you've become in that journey. You really miss the gold of who you've become.
Wow. It's beautiful. So can we get some examples of milestones for, let's say, a coach or an internet marketer or something like that on their journey? What kind of milestones would they be looking at or looking to celebrate, or how can we make them more aware to the stuff that they've achieved?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so to me, I think I'll use myself as an example.
Cool.
A milestone for me was actually celebrating and realizing that when I took this journey and the work that I'm doing now was not pre-thought, it was guided and it worked out in a way so much better than I ever experienced. And I can look and go, oh, I listened to it. I just taught a class for highly sensitive people and I just threw it out there and thought, well, let's just see what happens. And it just stuck. And I thought, well, this isn't where my business is going, right? Like I thought, no, this isn't where you're taking me, right, God? So I thought, well, I'll just teach it again and see what happens. And then I had more success. And I thought, well, I can't not do this because I'm seeing all the results I'm getting with people. So then I did it a third time. And then I got even more success. It went from 25 students the first time I taught it to 125 the third time I taught it.
Wow.
And so I started to see, and when I look back on those milestones, the milestone was, first of all, who I was being, but who I'd become. I kind of crossed the line from being an expert to being a champion.
Wow.
To being a cheerleader, to being, and then I crossed the line into being a leader. And so who I became over that journey, I can remember some milestones. And I think when you look at your own life, you can see some pivotal points that become sort of lines, markers for you and realize, wow, if I didn't make that decision, I had no idea. Or you, let's say you have a conversation with somebody and before you'd be confrontational and now you did it with, really with, it just became smooth and it was graceful and you resolved something and it was easy and you go, wow, I've really changed. And it's so when you talk about being your greatest possible self, if you look at the milestones of every time you've changed and you've handled something differently, or your perspective has changed around the results, or you took a moment to really appreciate it and take it in before you kept moving forward, those are significant milestones. You start to own yourself, your greatest possible self, piece by piece. It means something to you. It's got meaning. It's not just this goal to be happier or to be healthier or to be more successful.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. So I hear it's a very momentary, moment by moment, like versus somewhere in the future, because I totally get this, because I was always in the future. I always lived in the future. Like, I'm so excited for the future in 15 years when I'm a billionaire, when I'm developing all these apps and things that inspire people and make the world a better place. But right now sucks. Like, life sucks right now. I don't want to be here right now. Just like, take me there. I don't want to be here. Right. This is a couple years ago. And I'm just so grateful that I can say I love this moment right now and everything that we have, because this moment is everything. The past is the past. I'm super complete on it and getting more complete every day. And the future is inspiring. It's my why. It pulls me forward. But I'm not attached to when I get there, and I'm excited about it, and I share about it with people. And it's like, this moment is everything. So I get to really soak up the juiciness of this moment. I train myself more and more to be present, to enjoy the sensations, enjoy the emotions that we get to experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, but I think it's also, Chris, however many years ago you felt that life, kind of sucked.
Right.
If you look back on that, you get to celebrate your inner strength. You get to celebrate your perseverance. You get to celebrate really being focused and staying on the course. That's what I mean by a milestone. You get to celebrate what you got and discovered about yourself to get you from there to here. And when you realize that and go, wow, I have a lot of inner strength that when I need it, it's there for me. Think of how much more powerful you feel about your future.
Yeah.
It makes you look at, no matter what you do, instead of focusing on the goal, you're like going, oh, no, wait, I got it. Like, I got it covered. I can relax because I have a sense of an inner strength and a perseverance that's going to help me for the rest of my life. Makes it easier.
So it makes it easier. What does it do in terms of our results in our day-to-day life? Like, how does that transform the ability to get results and create results?
Yeah, well, it would be similar. It would be similar to me saying, you saying to me, Debbie, I want to build a house. And I go, well, first we have to build the foundation, right? And what do you need? You need this tool, this tool, this tool, and this tool. And you say to me, but I only have 2 of those 5 tools. And because all you're thinking about is, well, I got a plan. So that's one tool I need, right? And then maybe I have a hammer. But wait, I need wood, and I need concrete, and I need this, and I need that. And I remind him and go, but wait a second, Chris, you learned how to lay concrete like 2 years ago. You forgot that. And so I guess what I'm saying is that how does it help for your success in the future is if you remember that you have a lot more tools that you access. And that's what I was talking about. An ego-based kind of success model is thinking, oh, I just need an expert and I need some help and I need to learn another class. And
it's outside of me. I don't have it yet.
What about your intuition that helps you? What about manifesting? What about setting an intention? All of a sudden 5 people show up, or the very people you interview all of a sudden give you all the help you actually needed. And that was easy in one day. So that's what I'm saying is we forget, if we don't look at milestones and what we learned or what we gained from the experience and the tools we can now add and what we found inside of ourselves to be able to achieve something, we use those to move forward. And I think people forget. They look on the outside and they forget, and they focus on the how to, and they don't go, wait, I already got a lot of the how inside of me.
So is there a prompt that we can give our audience, our listeners right now, to remember what kind of resources that they have to acknowledge and celebrate what they've already accomplished?
Sure. I think that so most people look at their successes. Okay. So that's one place to start. Okay. Look at your successes and start to outline, what did you learn from the experience? What skills did you acquire because of it? What did you learn about it? Now, some people will say it was a lot of hard work. That's what they might say to themselves. And so then I'd say to them, now I want you to look at the most challenging times in your life and how did you get through to the other side? Because that shows your character. And we forget. We only access and dig deep when it's tough. I'm like, why would you wait to dig deep when it's tough to access, that inner strength that you have? Like,
so is that's the inner strength is really just shifting who you're being so that you can show up.
Knowing. It's I guess it's a sense of you can relax. You can relax about your future. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
I have no idea where I'm going to be a year from now.
Right.
I have visions, but I'll tell you, the visions are not mine. They're what the universe has given me.
Right.
And I have not a clue, literally the plan from A to B of what I'm being shown. But I do know, okay, well, here's the next step and here's the next step. But what do I have that the universe isn't going to all of a sudden bestow upon me? I have an inner knowing that, hey, when I've followed it before in my past, it's always worked out. So I can relax. I have a knowing that when I've needed to the next step, if I didn't know how to do it, somebody always showed up to either do it for me or show me how. So I can relax. I have a knowing that whatever I think it's going to look like a year from now is going to be 100% different than what I'm thinking. So I might as well just relax and let it go and focus today on who I'm being, every moment of my day, and accessing my true authentic nature and creating a life around that.
It's beautiful. I love this. And since you have the left brain side of you as well, how does the relaxation and who you're being, I'm showing up as my greatest possible self, how does that relate to taking action, taking massive action, taking inspired action? And for example, like making cold calls, making sales calls, how do those relate? How would you say that those two or those concepts play together?
Well, what's interesting, Chris, is that when I get like an inner guidance around something, I take action without even thinking about it. I mean, that's me. That's how I'm wired. Right. So I'll find like I woke up one day and thought, oh, I have to do this class. And I literally wrote the email for the class probably the next day. And I had that class launched in a week and a half.
That's awesome.
So I take it. So I know that when I'm procrastinating on something, it means that Debbie's how-to ego, has just clicked in and is trying to make this work because I'm sick of waiting. And I'm like, oh, Debbie. and I don't. I mean, I'll just take a step back. And I do have moments where I'm pretty quiet. I'm not, I haven't talked to my list and it's because I'm literally receiving some pretty big downloads. And I just know from my own self, the downloads are not the how-tos. And the downloads aren't always the what. Sometimes the downloads are to show me what's the next step in my own inner development to go to a higher vibration in order to be that person who's going to launch that program or stand in front of that audience or be talking about that topic.
Can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Let's see here. Give you an example of what that might look like. Yes. I'll use my name as an example. So for some people that don't know it, and this is the first time they're hearing me, I chose the last name Grace. That wasn't my name. If you look at Outrageous Business Growth, my name was Debbie Vermont. So you'll see that book was written by Debbie Vermont. And I changed my name 4 years ago. And I'd like to say that was premeditated thought, like, oh, I have to change my name. No, I woke up one day and I had this thought, and it says, like, Debbie, where you're about to head is so much bigger than the way you've been operating. You need the energy of your name to hold that space.
Wow. Oof.
I had, that was not a back and forth, should I or shouldn't I? It was literally that same voice said that to me. And I woke up, I'm like, okay, now I got to change my name. And I knew it. It felt so congruent.
That's awesome.
And I didn't pick Grace, by the way. I mean, Debbie Lynn is my actual given name. But I don't even know how, and so I don't know how it was Grace, but I did do something that I'd recommend to everybody. If you ever want to be complete with a part of your life that you want to be complete with, like really complete with it. If there's anything in your life, Chris, you want to say, look, I'm done with that. Like, I want to be complete with that. I no longer want to be that way or operate that way or that pattern. What I did is I actually had sort of a name celebration and a blessing. And what I did is I had my closest friends sent to me their blessing for Debbie Lynn Grace.
Wow.
And so they sent me the qualities they would like to bless me with. And it was such a beautiful, and so and then I wrote a letter to myself, so my future self, to my old self, to Debbie Vermont, and said, thank you for your service.
Mm.
And now I'm going to move, move the rest of our journey. So if you want to have a completion ceremony and bless your future, I highly recommend it for everybody. It was a beautiful experience. It was a really beautiful experience. And then I got to spend the last 4 years, Chris, learning how big the vibration of grace is.
Mm.
I think sometimes the universe drops something on your lap, Chris, and you have no idea how big it is. You just have a glimpse, because it's who you are whenever you're doing that actually creates how big it is and how much space you have to hold for it.
Mm. Gosh, this is powerful. So powerful. So juicy. So juicy. What's a lesson or wisdom that you've been receiving in life recently?
I think it's really the continuation of this theme, because you get to see when you're in your milestones how big you thought you were playing in the moment, and when you grow and expand, you look back at it and go, "Wow, I was really small." Right? You thought in that moment like this was a big deal, and it was a big deal. And then when you grow and you look, past it. And so for me, because I'm fairly in tuned to this journey and keeping my ear, very much tuned into that, I no longer think in terms of being an entrepreneur. And that's just me. I'm not saying that for everybody else. For me, I no longer think in terms of being an entrepreneur. My life is not led by, goals and achievement. My life is led by, why did I come here? Who am I here to serve? And who am I being when I serve them? And so I think of those three things every day, every single day. And when I write an email, it comes from that place. And when I'm here on this interview, that's where I'm coming from, and because I think it's so powerful. It gives you a sense of inner confidence that it's your inner source of inner knowingness, and your inner knowingness is where your confidence lies.
Wow. So this, I've heard research that in the later stages of life, we're more aware of like the legacy and tapped into our true power as creators, kind of thing, because we've developed that time. Do you think that at some point at birth we're going to have the same capacity of tapping instantly into our power and our wisdom and like all that's capable that 50, 60, 70-year-olds now are said to be creating? Do you think that's going to happen at birth in the next couple generations?
Well, I think that there are many children who are exceptionally gifted or, more intuitive. I think now, because people are more aware of what it means to be highly sensitive, people that are highly sensitive are typically more intuitive. And I think a lot of it has to do with how it's fostered. I mean, when you think about, if I could go back in time and become my own parent, I would have done it differently. Wow. And I was very much loved by my parents. Yeah. I mean, no doubt about it. I love them, and they definitely love me. But I would approach it very differently. And because I think that what you would see is a difference between a student or a child who has a strong sense of themselves at a young age. And in society, we're seeing society struggle with that. We're seeing many groups in our environment of struggling with their own self-identity and trying to be themselves in the world, and getting a lot of horrible divisiveness and bullying and abuse. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of social media. It gives a worldwide platform for people to abuse and tease each other and bully each other. And so in that sense, in our future, unless that's managed, it's going to be tough. Because is it possible? Yes. Can you imagine how different our world would be if every single child was loved unconditionally? Every single one. if every single child was told how special they are, if every single child was given a strong sense of themselves and inner confidence, we would have a very, very different world. It's why I'm really, really happy to see the movement of the kids in high school, the Parkland, students
Mm-hmm.
going up and making a difference and using their voice.
Mm.
They're our future adults. And I guess that's my answer,
Mm.
is if we can foster a worldwide environment of that, I would 100% yes say it's going to accelerate dramatically, pretty dramatically, and how people accelerate in their level of consciousness, because that's actually what you're asking.
Mm.
Will consciousness expand faster? Because it already is.
Right.
But we
Every
have to
moment.
foster that.
Every
Yeah.
moment. Every
Yeah.
moment.
And every interview that you do, Chris, and every time you do these powerful, intentions and put this kind of beautiful energy on Facebook, you help in that. You really do. You help. You make a big difference in that energy of planting that energy, in the world. And so, kudos to you for that. Really.
Thank you, Debbie Lynn. You mentioned a lot about these intuitive and sensitive people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if there's some intuitive and sensitive audience members that are listening right now, what would be some of the biggest pieces of wisdom and advice and guidance you'd want to share with them?
I think the greatest thing that not only somebody that's a sensitive person, anybody really,
Mm-hmm.
is to have an understanding of how you're showing up every day and where is your energy in your body.
Mm.
And this is something I've been teaching for many, many years, and it just turns out a lot of my students and my clients are highly sensitive, and now most of them are. And so when you show up and you're in your center,
Mm-hmm.
you make decisions that come from a place of clarity and from a place of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're off your center, which many people are, and make predominant amount of their decisions, this is where, and how would you know if you're off your center? If you have any type of lack thinking or any kind of inner judgment voice going on, you're off your center. Like, how do I look? Am I going to get a good result? How am I going to pay my bills? Where is this going to come from? What if people don't like me? All off your center. And I explained my own story of how off my center I was until I had to really get clear and listen to that guidance. And how else would you know you're off your center? If you have a neck ache, shoulder ache, back ache, any kind of physical stress in your body, you're off your center. If you are impatient, I don't know about you, Chris. You see, like, I have a PhD in impatience. I'm well versed on it. I'm an expert in it. I don't really teach it. I now teach I am patient. I am patient, because patience is actually the precursor to faith and trust.
Ooh, that's good. That's good.
And when you're off your center, you completely disconnect from faith and trust. So that's what I would tell anybody, is how to know and take a step back, take some deep breaths, breathe till you feel your body relax, open up the energy again, and then approach something from that space. And you'll see that your results are going to be quite different.
Wow, that's beautiful. So the sensitive people have the gift of being able to know where their energy is at in their body. And even more for them, if it's off center, then that's going to make an even bigger impact than the people who aren't so sensitive, because they're just more mechanical and just used to doing the actions to get the results kind of thing.
Well, I think that somebody that's born highly sensitive, yes, because they have heightened sensitivities, they're definitely more aware of what's happening in their body, because by nature, that's how they're wired.
Right.
And they're more empathic. The challenge becomes when they start to feel everybody else's energy and everybody else's, they get off their center and they don't know whose energy they've got in their body, theirs or somebody else's.
Right.
So this is where it becomes a challenge. But somebody who's not highly sensitive, it just means that they have to develop that skill.
Right.
And there's a lot of not highly sensitive people that, for instance, take yoga. So they're more in tune to their body, or they're athletes, they're more in tune to their body. So there are people that, definitely out there in the world who work very specifically on being more in tune to their body. And everybody should,
Yes.
it's really.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's just the sensitive people, it impacts them more when they're off center.
Oh,
They
yes.
notice it. It affects their
Yeah.
reality and their ability to produce results and be happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And in terms of awakening, I love that topic, awakening our greatest possible self. What might be stopping people who are using the internet to communicate, to build communities, to really grow their business, grow their impact online? What do you think might be stopping some of them from awakening their highest self and their greatest possible self?
Well, I think one of the challenges of being highly sensitive is overload, to
Mm,
get overwhelmed.
yeah.
And so when you start going on the internet and there's 1,000 emails in your
Yeah.
email box in a day
Mm,
saying, this is the way you do it. No, this is the way you do it. No, this is how I made $1 million. No, this is how I made $1 million. You start to get overwhelmed and shut down and go, and then take no action.
mm,
And so there is the downside of the overwhelm, and it's no different than, me coming from a direct mail background where I used to be in charge of mailing pieces of mail to people,
mm,
making offers from, banks and other kind of companies.
mm.
Now we get almost no mail.
Right.
Like we get almost no mail.
Yeah.
And now, and there used to be quote junk mail,
Hmm.
when your mailbox was filled with offers, and then
Hmm.
people called that junk mail. So now what do we have? Now we have spam. That's our
Spam.
version of junk mail.
Yep.
And so this is, I think, the challenge. So I think it's important to, again, get really clear
Mm,
on what's your next step and just focus on that. And ironically, you'll probably get an email in your email box. That's just your next step. And
mm,
don't listen to the rest. Just really
mm.
don't listen to the rest unless it resonates with you. I think that's something that you have to know. And I think the greatest thing about highly sensitive people, and I'm not saying that non-highly sensitive people don't have this,
Mhm.
but because we're so in tune to our body, is when something feels right, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
When something feels right, it's pretty obvious. So when an email feels right, it's pretty obvious.
Mm,
And when you're like, oh, if you're ever in your head, Chris, should I or shouldn't I? Means you're off your center.
mm.
That's a classic sign that you're off
Wow.
your center, because your intuition doesn't ever give you a pro and con list. Ever. Never shows up that way.
That's awesome. Awesome. Amazing. Debbie Lynn, this is amazing. We've covered so much in this interview already, and we want to know what are the final takeaways that we want to give our audience so that they can step into their power, step into their greatest possible self from this interview.
Well, I think I liked what we had talked about earlier.
Hmm.
If I to give like a couple of takeaways would be the milestones.
Yeah.
Go and sit down and do that exercise of how you got through the other side in your challenges. What did you rely on? Your inner strength, your support system, your
Mm,
perseverance. What skill did you learn because of whatever challenge you went through? Because I went through the challenge of my divorce,
mhm,
I learned that I'm gifted and gifted intuitive. I learned some energy skills. I mean, I learned so much from that.
mhm,
And so ironically, you'd think, oh, you learned, never to do that again, or date that kind of person again, or be with that kind of person again. And that actually wasn't, I learned more about myself through the experience than
mm.
about the relationship.
Totally.
So I think if you go through that exercise, you're going to realize how great you really are.
Mm,
You're going to start realizing, who you've become because of your journey, your successes, and absolutely your challenges. You're going to start being able to look at a piece of paper and see it in black and white and go, holy cow, I'm really quite special, like, because I think everybody is extraordinary. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. So we're doing the milestones for sure. We're going to look at, what did it take for us to get through those situations? How do we have an inventory of that to draw from and remember how powerful we really are? These resources that we've looked over, that we've forgotten because we have all this wisdom and goodness to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Beautiful, beautiful. And Debbie Lynn, how do people stay connected with you, and what do we want them to do next?
Oh, that's a great question. You can go to my website, debbielynngrace.com. It's DebbieLynn grace.com. I have quite some blog articles that are really quite helpful that you might want to check out. But I also have a free audio download on prosperity. And so, yeah, so if you want to know more about how to immerse yourself in the energy of prosperity, it's not about thinking, it's about immersing yourself in the energy of prosperity. And that's free. So go ahead and, sign up to download that free audio.
I am putting it in the comments right now. DebbieLynnGrace.com/free-prosperity-audio. And we got that. Awesome. It is in the comments. And Debbie Lynn, you are a superstar. Thank you so much for coming on today.
This is great. This is really great. And I'm really, really excited about the work you're doing. Thank you so much for having me.
Just the beginning.
I know, it is.
Have the best day ever, the best week ever, and keep shining, okay?
All right, you too. Bye-bye.